Welcome back to another Story Cubes. The next story that was posted in the comments is my clone thinks he's the real one. And honestly, he's got a good point. He's got a point. Alright, so the theme of this story is my clone thinks he's the real one, and honestly, he's got a point. So, once upon a time, while I was sleeping, I had a terrible nightmare in which I decided that the best way to cure my fear of warm temperatures was to create a clone that was not afraid of warmer temperatures. You see, I'm a very afraid person of fire and heat, and I calculated the odds that I can create a clone that would not be afraid of fire and heat. Now, at first, when I told friends about this, they thought I was being humorous, or maybe I was being theatric with my approach. But I knew the key to resolving this issue was to follow through with the cloning process. So I used natural resources in nature, and in the dead of night, I created my facility so that in a stormy night, I would be able to harness the powers of lightning to create my clone. And as the lightning began, the process had started. The clone came out with perfect features. It was in the shape of me, but it was not quite me. It was too perfect. And he was haunted by other demons. He was not afraid of fire, but he was afraid of many things. And one day, I had received a letter in the mail from a relative who had heard the stories that I had planned on making a clone. And they had the idea that I could use this clone to do my daily tasks in order to accomplish more of my day so that I can enjoy leisure. And as I enjoyed the fruit of my labor, I had then realized that the clone did a great job. Even though he was not afraid of fire, he had many other fears. Fears that my other friends and family did not think of. In fact, they didn't even know I was afraid of fire. And so one day, as I was traveling to town, my friends and family were confused to see me. In fact, they thought I looked ill. They said that I did not look as well as I usually am. And I seemed to have become ill. I then went to my favorite watering hole to go and fish. And even the fish thought I looked ill and that I didn't look like I normally do. And it dawned on me that everyone was so used to seeing my clone that they have now decided that I was in fact the fake one. So I decided to approach my clone to finally settle this once and for all. I was delighted when I found my clone hanging out by himself. I approached him with many questions as to what is it that you've been telling everyone? Why does everyone think that I am the clone? And the clone decided to reveal to me that one day while he was smelling the flowers, he had then realized that he retained all of the same memories that I had, and that he retained the memories of making the clone such as I had. And that he had created this idea that he was in fact the original and that I was the clone. In fact, the fear of being afraid of fire was not logical. And that since the clone had more fears than I did, it was more logical that he would be the real one since he had more phobias that were more grounded. I looked this up in a book to see if these phobias were real. And sure enough, they were. And I then started to realize that I, myself, had spent all of my time indoors and never left, which meant that this clone had created more of a life than I had. So I took a gamble and I decided to reveal the clone's identity to everyone to see if they would still accept that this clone was the real me, or if I was the real me. And to my surprise, like a bolt of lightning striking me, everyone had assumed that I was in fact the clone. And even though they drew nearer to the clone than to me, I had then been outed as being the fake one. I don't remember if that was the second roll or the third roll, so I'll do one more just in case. This will be the ending. That one rolled off the table. Okay. I tried to communicate with everyone, telling them that I was in fact the real one, the original and not the clone. And everyone started to believe that this was an act, and that the clone was not simply created, but just someone that looked like me. Now, even though everyone was attracted to the clone, believing that he was the original and that I was the fake, I decided that the best way to do this was to challenge the clone to a competition. I calculated the odds that the clone would be able to pass these tests and realized that I, unlike the clone, had known things and was able to do things that the clone could not do. So I challenged the clone to a race. And to everyone's surprise, the clone was slower than I was. I challenged the clone to an eating competition, and to everyone's surprise, the clone could not eat as much as I could. And then I challenged the clone to a swimming contest, and just as before, the clone could not keep up. Everyone was shocked and realized that the clone was not, in fact, me, and that I was the original. And so we forced the clone to live in the woods forever. The end. The clone was forced to live in the woods. I didn't know how to end it, and I had a tree left. I didn't know what to do with it.